Little draw down the middle. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. It started down the middle, but then it sliced horrifically out to the right, because there's three things that I'm seeing again and again from so many amateurs, whether it's out on the golf course when I see them playing, in the lesson tee, wherever it is, three things that if we can just get these a little bit better, we're gonna get rid of the slice with the big dog. Guys, I'm Matt Fryer, PGA professional. Before we get stuck into this lesson, do me a favour, if you are new here, hit the subscribe button so you're not missing out on any other future content we release on the channel. Let's get stuck back into this slice lesson and get you finding a few more fairways with this driver, because when we do hit it well, it is a pleasure to hit. Let's have a look at the first thing that could be causing that big slice. So tip number one, all to do with our tilts, and this is from our setup perspective. Because we are using a club, the driver, that when we are stood to it correctly, we're actually going to see that the ball should be further up our stance. So we should see now that it's actually in line with my lead foot here. And when I place that club in, what then happens is that as I put my left hand on as the right-handed golfer, that's actually close to that side of my body already. But as I get my right hand and bring that to the golf club here, straight away, notice that right shoulder and my spine are actually going towards where the golf ball is. So as I now grip it, what we have is the incorrect tilts. I don't alter these, and I see a lot of people not altering them and then trying to actually get on the inside, when actually I've got something now where my shoulders are actually pointing down at the ground and my spine is actually leaning towards the target. Now, if I was trying to get the club to come on the inside and I'm stood exaggerated here, if I'm stood like this, the chances of me actually getting this club to drop on the inside and actually change my tilts isn't very likely. So what I want us to do, you could actually have a really good swing and your other attributes to hitting a straighter drive could be correct. But if we've got these tilts wrong and everything's out of line, that's where we could be getting something wrong. So firstly, let's just make sure when we do take our driver setup, we see it's aligned with that front foot, we get our grip. Let's now just make sure that our shoulders aren't open to our parallel target line, and let's make sure that the left shoulder, the lead shoulder for me, isn't pointing down actually at the ground in front of me, and my spine's also going that way. Let's just make sure that as we start to get a little bit more into our setup, we feel the opposite. We feel actually, if anything, the shoulders are pointing a little bit right of our parallel target, and our spine is starting to feel a little bit behind the golf ball, because from here then, and I'm not saying this is going to straight away correct that slice, and what it's going to allow me to do is get a little bit more on the inside and the up, as opposed to the outside and down as I'm going through. So set it up. Once you've taken that reach, adjust your tilts, and from here then we should see we get a better chance of straightening it up. And I've actually got my nice little draw there, because that's what my normal shot is, but I'm a lot more comfortable getting from the inside there just by changing those tilts. That is probably the most common fault I see in the setup. Tip number two, and I always say this to my students first, we've got to fix the face before we can fix the path, which is where we're going to go on to. And what I mean by that is that as you have your face, as you're coming into impact, it's going to be open to where your club is actually swinging. And what we see from a lot of golfers, what we see from these slicers, is that there is a lack of release. I think there's been maybe a little bit of a trend, more so in the iron swing, that a lot of education is, well, no, don't release it, don't actually get it, we need to use the body and hold and turn it. If you're a slicer, you need to learn to start letting that face actually rotate, because what you'll feel throughout the golf swing, what you think you're doing, you'll actually be doing a very watered down version if you're doing it at all. And what I mean by that is that as we get that face that is open and we don't actually get any release, we get something where as it's coming in, the toe's dragging behind the heel, and as we get through impact and post-impact, we see a position very similar to this one, where I'm holding on, almost trying to guide the face down the centre of the fairway, thinking that's going to allow me to hit it straight, as opposed to actually releasing the club head and letting it stay square to the arc and actually close to my target line now, instead of that, like I say, holding it square and open to the target line. So really simple. What I want you to do to try and start off with is we need to actually go down to the driving range and start hooking some golf balls with the driver. I want you to get it turning right to left and get it turning quick. Once you've done that, you'll start to actually understand what the feeling of a release is, and then we can water it down a little bit and actually meet back in the middle somewhere. But real simple, what you're looking for is that as you come through impact now, and once you get into your follow through or just post impact, as opposed to having this separation of the elbows and the forearms and the face looking down the target here, what I want to try and do is get something where I feel my forearms are extended, my elbows are closer together, and I'm starting to get the face of the driver actually looking more towards the ground. My glove hand, for me being my left hand, the back of the glove hand where the Velcro is pointing more down to the floor now, as opposed to pointing more up towards the sky. So just have a few, even just as you're waiting around maybe to tee off, just feel this motion. Just actually feel what it is like to let that club face turn over, and it will feel like very exaggerated. And remember, when you actually come to do this at speed, you've got about half a second to try and get that. So the more you can actually get the feeling of what it is like to get a release and actually let it happen, the more chance when we start to bring some speed back in and we understand the feeling, the better the chance we have of actually getting it to happen. So tip number 2, learn to release that face. If you get some hooks, that's great. I don't mind you hooking it. We can solve it from there. We can straighten it out. So let's see on this one if I can get it turning a little bit more right to left than normal, just by feeling actually that I'm letting the face rotate over a little bit more. So in, get those tilts right, and now I'm going to let this one really draw to hook down the center. And wow, that to me felt like I really let it go, and the wind is a little bit off the left today, but it's gone there with that sweeping draw, all because I'm feeling that face. And even when I'm just standing here and doing this, I'm getting a real awareness of what my club face is doing through that hitting zone. So tip number 2, learn to release the face. Like I say, hooks aren't bad, we can straighten it out from there. Tip number 3, we've got our tilt sorted, we've got our face sorted, and as I said a minute ago, we now need to start actually fixing the path, and also think about where our strike location is coming from, because as a slicer, I would imagine we've thought about here a lot, that heel shot, because the club's glancing across the golf ball, a glancing blow, the face is open, so the heel's leading. So we get a lot of strikes coming from this part of the golf club. What we want to firstly do, if we are a little bit of a slicer, the toe's going to be our friend, because when we do get the toe, it's actually going to turn the face in a little bit more. We're going to see a little bit of gear effect come into play, and we're actually going to see that we get a little bit more right to left just by that. So even when you're down practicing, what I want us to try and do is just try and feel that we're going to strike the ball a little bit more out of the toe. But then secondly, what I want us to do, if you just take 2 tee pegs and you come in close here for me, what I want us to do, if we think about our grip length here, if you're at the driving range, you can maybe use 2 balls on the floor. But if you just simply lie this club down, so the club is pointing to your target, what I want you to do, outside of the grip length here, you're going to put a tee peg, flip it round, outside of the grip length on the inside, we're going to put another tee peg there. We're going to want this one a little bit lower as well as we go through. And the aim for us now, as I now take my golf club and I put it into a dress and I get my tilts, The idea for here, and if you want to do this without the golf ball to start off with, is that I've got 3 T-pegs now, and what I want to start to do is feel that as I'm actually getting this release of the face, I want to marry the path up to it, because hopefully we know if we want to get a little bit more of a draw shot or a straighter shot, we need a path that is a little bit more to the right of our target, and we need a face that is a little bit more left of that path. So it'll be swinging a little bit more from in to out with that face coming in. And a real simple visual for us there, if we think of the tees, we've got low, medium, and then this being the highest one. I want us to feel that as we're going through our swing, we're coming from low on the inside and raising up through the middle and high on the outside as we're going through. And what that does then for me, as I start to travel this club down that path, I start to get the tilts that we talked about in the first tip. I get that spine tilt away from the target. I get this upward attack motion, which is going to also shift the path a little bit to the right, as opposed to having the spine tilt a little bit more to the left and get the attack coming down, which is going to shift my path to the left and get that slicey motion. If I've blended my tip number 2 in and I'm feeling I'm traveling from 1, 2 and 3 with that face release, I'm now actually going to start to get a path that is more reminiscent of a drawer's swing. So have some small swings and just feel that you go in over the low one, out over the high one, in over the low one, out over the high one, and we should start to feel that we're really getting this club dropping from the inside. Once we're done with that, I'd maybe remove the back one, maybe just lie it down as a bit of a visual so it's not going to impede you on your swing. But from there, that T-peg that's out in front of us, I'm going to let the club travel up over that. I'm going to add in a little bit of face rotation, that release. I've got my tilt right, and from here I should start to see, with a little bit of toe strike as well, I start to get some pretty good shots. And there, another nice little draw, and it's even fighting the wind, and it's another fairway found. So 3 tips for me. Make sure we've got the tilts right, learn to release it, and let's get that path from the in and rising up through impact. If we can do that, we should start to see that that slice is going to start to eradicate for us. Guys, as I said earlier, Matt Fryer, PGA Professional, hit the subscribe button, join the community, and we'll see you in your next lesson very soon.